Have you ever wondered what that burst of energy and strength is when you're in a high stress, scary, or dangerous situation? That is our body's survival neuroendocrine reflex adrenaline, also termed epinephrine, a hormone released in response to acute stress. Adrenaline excites and inhibits different tissues and organs depending on their function and region in the body for activation of the flight or fight response. Adrenaline release begins with a physiologic trigger based upon external stresses such as noise, bright light, or physical threat, which are processed through signals in the central nervous system. Hypothalamus interprets signals from the CNS and releases corticotropin-releasing hormone, a hypophysiotropic hormone, which travels to the anterior pituitary gland and excites the release of adrenocorticotropic hormone from corticotrope cells. This hormone travels through venous blood to the adrenal glands, stimulating the release of adrenaline from chromaffin cells and the adrenal medulla, where the amino acid tyrosine is transformed through various enzymatic reactions to develop the hormone norepinephrine. Noradrenaline and adrenaline are similar in chemical structure as they both consist of a benzene ring, two hydroxyl groups and a nitrogen side chain, making them catecholamines. Noradrenaline is then transformed into the larger hydrophilic molecule adrenaline, by methylation of the nitrogen side chain by the enzyme phenylethanolamine N-methyltransferase. Because of its hydrophilic affiliation, adrenaline cannot diffuse across the chromaffin cell membrane and so is stored in vesicles, therefore requiring exocytosis to be released. Adrenaline travels through the blood to effector cells in organs and tissues that innervate the sympathetic nervous system, stimulating both the alpha and beta adrenergic systems. The alpha adrenergic system consists of two subtype receptors, alpha-1, which are on smooth muscle cells, and alpha-2, on presynaptic neurons. A1 receptors bind to GQ-coupled proteins on smooth muscle cells, increasing the amount of intracellular calcium, resulting in vasoconstriction, urinary retention, increased peripheral vascular resistance, and blood pressure. The beta adrenergic system consists of two major beta receptors, beta-1 and beta-2. Beta-1 and 2 receptors are GS-coupled proteins, therefore increase adenylyl cyclase, increasing cyclic AMP, resulting in an increase of cyclic AMP-dependent protein kinase. Beta-1 receptors increase the force and speed of heart rate, renin release and lipolysis, compared to beta-2 which vasodilate blood vessels, cause bronchodilation, decrease peripheral vascular resistance, and relax uterine smooth muscle. These receptors are linked to G proteins and second messenger systems which carry out the intracellular effects such as breakdown of glycogen for glucose. An important physiological response is the stimulation of the liver to break down glycogen into glucose, a process termed glycogenolysis. This provides a rapid energy source to the muscles and brain, allowing for quick decision-making and peak physical performance. The signal molecules, adrenaline and glucagon, bind to specific 7TM receptors within the plasma membrane of muscle and liver cells. Here, adrenaline binds to beta-adrenergic receptors in muscle, whereas glucagon binds to glucagon receptors. This binding process activates an alpha subunit of the GS proteins, resulting in the activation of adenylate cyclase, which catalyzes the formation of the secondary messenger cyclic AMP from ATP. The increased cytosolic levels of cyclic AMP results in the activation of protein kinase A, which phosphorylates the beta subunit of phosphorylase kinase, resulting in the final step of glycogen phosphorylase. An increased heart rate is triggered by the binding of the beta-adrenergic receptors in the myocardium, therefore increasing cardiac contractility and heart rate. This allows the body to prepare itself for the fight or flight response by increasing oxygen levels and nutrients present. Another physiological response triggered by the release of adrenaline is bronchodilation, allowing for an increased lung capacity. One final physiological response that can be noted is peripheral vasoconstriction. This occurs when adrenaline is taken up by the sympathetic nerve endings and is re-released as a co-transmitter, therefore stimulating prejunctional beta-adrenoceptors, resulting in post-junctional alpha-1 adrenoceptor-induced vasoconstriction. Vasoconstriction occurs in order to minimize blood flow into areas not essential for the fight or flight response, such as the digestive tract, and instead blood flow is directed into the high-need areas, such as the brain and respiratory system. All of these physiological responses determines what we humans do in the presence of acute stress. When adrenaline is no longer needed for the physiological responses it supports during times of stress, it is catalyzed at the synaptic level by the enzyme monoamine oxidase in the sympathetic nerve endings. Modern research of adrenaline and its effect on the body has centered around identifying the efficacy of adrenaline administration for out-of-hospital, non-shock, cardiac arrest patients. Some of the key criteria used for evaluation includes return of spontaneous circulation, or ROSC for short, and survival rate to hospital admission and discharge. Intravenous administration in the early stages post-cardiac arrest can have favorable outcomes in relation to both ROSC and survival rates. However, this is heavily reliant on the time of administration, which must be administered early. Whilst there are certain positives to be taken from the early use of adrenaline, especially for short-term health, some contrasting studies have proposed that the use of adrenaline for these patients may have adverse long-term effects. One study states that the use of adrenaline was consistently associated with worse outcomes and lowered survival rates if dosage rates were too high, or the administration was delayed for too long. These more recent findings may alter medical use of adrenaline administration for non-shock cardiac arrest patients until further research has been conducted to fully understand the implications. So, now you know what that surge of energy is when you're stressed. Next time you're running for your life, just remember, adrenaline's got your back.